Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by the amazing Nelson Campos. Nelson, how you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It is an honor to have you here. But Nelson, before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You are a horror cosplayer in LA. You've been cosplaying for over a year now, but been into horror since you were a kid. Always been a big fan of movies, not for the blood and gore, but the fact of the storytelling of good versus evil, which I think a lot of us are super, super into. You love cosplaying for the fact that you can wear a costume and just be somebody else for a little while, which I think all of us at some point have understood. Just wanting to go out and be someone else for a little bit. And what I love about what you do, Nelson, and what kind of attracted me to you for us to kind of do this interview, why I kind of reached out, like you do the devil costume, but you're not into scaring people. There it is.
My customs from a movie I don't think a lot of people don't know about, Satan's Little Helper.
Mhm.
A little indie film from like the early 2000s. I've always been a fan of cosplaying, but like I never been a fan of scaring people, especially little kids.
Sure.
Weirdly, kids like my outfit. I don't know why. Like I've had a lot of little kids at cons, little horror events ask me for photos. It's the parents that get freaked out by it. Like,
Well, I guess that's the way it should be.
yeah, when I see little kids, I try to cover the mouth because I think that's what scares them the most is the creepy grin. But a lot of the
Mhm.
times, I have a lot of kids come up to me, take photos, and the parents are the ones looking kind of freaked out behind the cameras. Um, I do a lot of horror events, but you might mostly see me at goth events such as Bar Sinister, Knucklehead, Drock House. I'm a videographer as well, and I actually film with the mask on. It's hard for me to see, but I can see through these little slits, and honestly, I actually get pretty good footage.
Yeah, that's awesome. And where can people see some of your footage at?
On Instagram, NSC 23 Films. It's goth clubs, but they have go-go dancing, femme fatale, burlesque shows. It's a little bit risque, but it's all to promote the clubs.
Right. And the good thing is, guys, you don't have to go far to find these links because I have all of the social media links right down in the description. So please make sure you are following. You are going to enjoy a lot of the things that he does. But more than that, like you also visit a lot of movie sites and you've been in two films recently, Death Bitch and Bite School 2. So what was it like for you to break onto the screen?
Honestly, I've always been a fan of horror films, and I've always wanted to, be in a little bit, and I've always tried, to put myself out there as much as I can. In Death Bitch, they put a hose in the back of my head and basically shut my brains out. It was a little small scene, but it was my breakout role. And then I got a bigger role in the movie School Bites 2 with James Balsamo, and I was actually a vampire in the movie. I'm
That's
still
awesome.
doing more films and trying to break out more indie films, but honestly, I just do it to be part of horror culture.
Right. And it is fun to be on set and to be, doing those things and going to visit, different horror houses. And you live pretty close to a very famous horror house, especially in this household. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, LA is gigantic, and it's the movie capital of the world. Everyone comes here to film. This is where people premiere their movies, and a lot of horror houses are around here. The one I live close to the most would be The People Under the Stairs. Not a lot of people know about this movie. Only really diehard fans from the early '90s and '80s. Um, to the People Under the Stairs house, it's very grim, very disturbing, and it's very like by itself. It's when you go to the block in real life, it is the exact same vibe from the movie. There's not a soul in sight. There's a lot of like weirdly like Louisiana type houses, like plantation looking houses like they use for haunts and also like scary theme parks in during Halloween. But that house, it's exactly the same except they have a gigantic black fence in front of it.
Yeah.
It nobody's
It,
in there, nobody lives in there, and it's always available for filming. But like it is in the movie. It's just there's no soul inside.
it's crazy to me because, like I said, Ashley, that's my wife's favorite horror movie. Ashley loves that movie. And I'm a huge fan of The People Under the Stairs. I think that it's such an amazing film. And to know that it's still like that desolate house, like that to me makes it even more scary, because mommy and daddy are two of the scariest villains of all time, in my opinion. And so to know that it's still out there like that, that's amazing. Wes Craven knocked it out of the park with that one.
Isn't Jordan Peele making a remake? I believe.
That's what we've heard. We've heard that we've been hearing it for a while that Jordan Peele's producing a remake. I think if anybody can do it, he can. I think the story is just as relevant today as it was then. It's just going to come down to casting. I think that movie was so perfectly casted that like you got to cast Fool again. You got to cast Mommy and Daddy. Everett McGill. Those are huge shoes to fill, metaphorically and physically. Um, and that to me is what it's going to come down to: who they cast, and it's got to stay believable to me. Like it's got to stay scary believable to me. So
Yeah.
that's my thing. I'm not anti remake. I never have been. Well, since I became mature and grown up, I haven't been. But I just that's one that I'm really cautiously optimistic about, just because how much it means to us in this house.
The People Under the Stairs house, like you can tell that it wasn't a gigantic film, but they put a lot of love into it. And like all of the practical effects, all of the effects they had in it was very scary. Like they made that house look terrifying, and even right now it still looks exactly the same. They
That's
didn't really
awesome.
change the paint. It's the same cobstones and everything, and the wood shingles. Everything is the same. Like it's honestly like they didn't really like they could go back to that same house and reshoot the whole film again.
That would be, and I would love for them to do that. That'd be a nice little Easter egg for us, or even have like Sean Whalen play one of the bad guys. Have Roach come back and reprise his role. I think that would be really cool. Like maybe have him be the one that drives Fool to the house and goes inside with him. Like have him, or even maybe have him be a cop that comes and knocks at the door. I think that something like that would be really cool to see him reprise his role in this movie in some way.
Yeah, like Sean Whalen, I've met him at Monster Palooza with Felicia Rose. Really sweet guy.
Mhm.
I know he came out with a new movie called Crust, and honestly, like I think he could reprise his role, like in
Yeah.
Victor Crowley, be a paramedic. It's like a small little nod to him. But I do believe that most of the cast is still alive, especially Fool, who's a voice actor now.
Yeah, and he's amazing. Love the guy to death. So, but, I love talking about the people under the stairs, and for you to do horror cosplay and go to horror cons and be so up on the people under the stairs house, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now, Nelson, I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre. Your first horror movie, and Nelson, the first horror movie you watched was.
Child's Play.
And just to make sure, because I always have to do this, since there are two movies with this title, we are talking about 1988, not 2019, correct?
1988, of course. I actually
Fantastic.
have a Chucky doll right behind me. I have two of them.
I love it. Love
Um,
it.
I I love when I was a kid. I used to love Toy Story. Dolls
Mhm.
coming to life. Walking around having a life of their own. And I watched that movie when I was 5 years old. And I believe, as a practical joke, my dad put Child's Play, and it said it was the exact same thing. Toys coming to life right behind the kids.
Mhm.
Well, he thought I would be scared by it, but honestly, I was just more intrigued by it. That a
Sure.
walking, talking doll will come out of nowhere and probably kill people. Weirdly, I don't think I was supposed to be the age to watch that movie. I was 5 years old, but I just love that movie, and I always knew my first paycheck I would ever get would be Chucky.
Yeah. I've got a couple Chuckies sitting back here. They're all over back here. Child's Play is my favorite horror franchise. Anybody that watches the channel knows that. Child's Play is cream of the crop for me when it comes to horror franchises. And we know you were quite young, 5 years old, watching it with your dad for the first time. But do you remember what scene affected you the most?
Yes, I believe the scene that affected me the most was when he woke up because like the whole time, like I was thinking that Chucky would come to life, but I was also thinking that is he not real? Because there were always small glimpses, him moving, you seeing his point of view, his arms and legs touching, and like him, turning off the stove. But the thing that woke me up the most was that how the mom grabs him and is gonna throw him into the fire for framing the sun, and she doesn't believe it, but she also does at the same time. And like this toy was a big problem for her, and I was always thinking like, what if my toys would come to life if I did the same thing as Sid did? Either
Right.
terrorize them or like didn't treat them properly. And when he came to life and starts attacking, that part freaked me out to the point where I still like when I was younger, I still played with my toys, but I never mistreated them. I made sure they were always taken care of, and I would like even if I dropped them, I would still say sorry, even though nobody.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I'm not.
My bad, Buzz.
I still do that. It's like I know Chucky's not real, but the one I have talks. He has a button that moves, but I don't know why. A part of me feels like if I don't treat him properly, I'm gonna probably get a knife in my neck.
Well, and it's funny because that scene, like you said, it goes off the rails right there. But right before that, when she goes to throw the box away and you see the batteries fall out of the box, that's when she's like, "Oh shit," like this isn't good.
I know, like I've been looking for a battery pack like that, but like it is freaky because like even without batteries, toys still do kind of move on their own.
Hmm.
Like I've always thought that, like whenever you place some like a toy specific place and it just like ends up somewhere else, either your parents moved it or negligence. It's just like it is a little freaky because every now and then you will see like them falling down, and people have always had videos of dolls moving on their own.
Right, and that's always creepy as hell.
Right. Like honestly, people are afraid of my Chucky dolls. My family does not like them, but it's a great addition. And honestly, my little brother that lives with me is freaked out by him. He does not come in my room ever.
Oh, I bet that doesn't surprise me at all. A lot of kids are like that. So Nelson, we know what scene affected you the most from the original Child's Play, but what would you say your favorite scene from that movie is?
My favorite scene, um, honestly, I think I would be the scene where he's fighting the cop. Honestly, that was really
When
my
he's in the
favorite
back
scene.
seat and
Yeah, and like like you don't see him coming, but he's just like super small. He's like going under the seat, stabbing the chairs, and the cop can't even see him. He's walking super fast, and you can tell that Chucky's just having fun with him. He can kill him right then and there, but he doesn't even know that he's turning human. He feels the pain. He's getting shot at, and
that's
like he flies away, and it's super funny. Like I loved it there because the comedy kind of went up. I love
mhm.
horror, but I also love comedy, and I just loved it that he's just, oh shit. He feels it and just was scattering away.
He
I don't know,
sees the
like
blood. He's
I
just like,
always
"Oh
love the
no."
comedy in Child's Play. Like I always like even though it's pretty freaky, but when you get used to it, it's just it's a good time.
It is. And like I said, it's my favorite horror franchise, so I completely agree with everything you're saying. Um, we've talked about, the scenes that affected you the most in your favorite scene, but as horror fans, obviously, we love the kills. We'd love to talk about the kills. We love to see the kills. Which kill from Child's Play would you say was your favorite?
You got to start off with the first the beginning. I don't know if you
Oh,
would
Aunt
call it a
Maggie?
death. I don't know if you would call it a death, but the toy search is blowing up. Like
Well, I mean,
honestly,
after that,
it's
you do see Charles Lee Ray dead. I mean, his body is there dead, so I would say that that's a kill.
like I know I don't know if you watch Dead Meat, but I'm not sure if they remember they call that as a kill. His soul does go into the body, but just seeing all those Chucky dolls, they're all looking at him, and like the explosion and the storm, and it's pretty freaky, but it's really good effects. Like I think even back then it was actually pretty cool, and
Well,
like
and we get
it's
the first time we get to hear
A day to eat Emperor. Give me the power, I beg of you!
yeah, that's one
and that to
problem
me
with
is
forgetting.
like so like again that's let's play hide the soul, like to see that come into fruition for the very first time, like you said, with the clouds coming in. And um I don't know if James and Chelsea counted that as a kill or not, but I do. So like James, I think James did, because I mean technically Charles Lee Ray is dead at that moment and he's in the
Right.
doll of Chucky. So I would call it a kill. I would call it a death, but that guy is much more of an expert at counting kills than I am. Like that I will say. I love James and Chelsea. I respect what they do, and I can honestly say when it comes to counting kills, there's no one in the world better than those two. So obviously, Child's Play now is a part of a franchise. It's a much bigger franchise built around what this first movie created. Which film in this franchise would you say is your favorite?
Bride of Chucky, but also because to me it opened up the world of Chucky because like me, I love Easter eggs. I love little nods to horror films, and even the beginning, it shows you, the claws of Freddy Krueger, the mask of Jason, the Leatherface chainsaw, even Michael Myers himself. And it's kind of like I've always thought about like, what if they all met each other? And I know there were ideas. Chucky was supposed to meet, I forgot who exactly, but there was always been ideas and little nods to it, especially with one of my favorite kills from Brother Chucky, the Hellraiser, with the nails. They
Why
launch it
does
from the
that look
airbags.
so familiar?
Why does that look so familiar?
Yeah, I didn't see Hellraiser at that point yet, but like honestly, like it's just like there was so much nods to it. That's why it kind of led to one of my favorite games, Terror Dome.
Okay. Well, and they were supposed to. The rumor was we were supposed to get a Child's Play on Elm Street. We were supposed to get a Child's Play and Nightmare on Elm Street crossover called Child's Play on Elm Street that never came into fruition. And um, another one that was rumored was Leprechaun versus Candyman, and I'm so glad that didn't fucking happen because that would have been rough. So now Child's Play, obviously did get the remake treatment in 2019. Did you see the Child's Play remake? And if so, were you a fan?
I saw it. It didn't have the same effect. Like honestly, I think Mark Hamill did a great job. It was
Mhm.
good voice acting. The concept was pretty much there. It's a little bit like Megan.
Yep,
It had a lot of Megan vibes, but I think like it just didn't have that same charm to it.
that's
Like
fair.
a lot.
See, I've said numerous times, and for repeat viewers, I'm sorry you got to hear this again. That movie would have been 10 times better if it would have been called Buddy from the world of Child's Play. You could have still had, you could have named the doll something different. It could have taken place in the same universe as Chucky. Um, it didn't work as the remake they were trying to do. I love that film. I think the kills are great. I love Aubrey Plaza. I love Mark Hamill doing the voice. I thought there was some good comedy in it. This is for Tupac. Like that all landed to me. I thought that was all great. But it just like, and I respect the fact they didn't have an Ade Dewey Dembele. They didn't have a doll trying to take over a kid's body because Charles Lee Ray, you're never going to do that again. Brad
No.
Dourif is Charles Lee Ray, and they recognized and respected that. So you didn't even have to name the doll Chucky. You could have named it anything, and then we could have gotten some sequels. I still want the fucking Buddy Bear movie, guys. Give me a Buddy Bear movie, please. I would love to see it. So I agree with you. I think it was fine for what it was, but it definitely doesn't have the charm of the original.
Like Buddy, like the idea was pretty good. I just think that like when you're trying to make like a remake, people are gonna live it up to the original. Like okay,
Mm-hmm.
Child's Play was made in the '80s. It doesn't have better effects. Because like people compare it, but like even with like an Nightmare on Elm Street, people say that the makeup isn't that good, the kills aren't as crazy, and it's just like, they try to compare it to what we had in the '80s. And
Right.
honestly, it's like I think Buddy, like there was a lot of love to it. I know Aubrey Plaza wanted to be in Child's Play. She loves the Chucky movies. And it was like a huge, it was like a huge opportunity for her, but like it was just like, they were trying to compare it a little bit too much to the original, and they should have kind of
Right.
just made it its own thing. Like Buddy would have been probably a better name for it.
Yep. They were like, "Oh, well, it's a doll, so we got to name it Child's Play." No, you don't. Like, you don't. Just make it in the same world. Make it take place in the same universe. There's plenty of masked serial killers. They don't all have to have the same title of a movie. Like, it's really. I think they cut off their nose to spite their face by naming it Child's Play. So man, I've had an amazing time talking about Child's Play being your first horror movie. But real quick, my little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you.
Of
What's
course.
your favorite scary movie, Nelson? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Now that's a big question. Like I love horror movies, like even like B horror movies and
Mhm.
like it's just independent films. I always love them, even if they have a bad rating to it. It's still worth a watch.
Yeah,
Like I think
yeah,
horror, people don't give it a lot of love to it. Like it's always ignored in the Oscars, and people, just don't give it the respect that it deserves. My favorite horror movie would still have to be Bride of Chucky.
really, it's your favorite.
Yeah, like I could watch it constantly, and then like, I know everything about it, but I just love the comedy of it. It's comedic and it's full of horror, and I love Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah. See, personally, I do like Bride of Chucky. Um, but for me, it's Child's Play 3. And I know that that movie gets a bad rep. I get it, but I fucking love that movie so much. I grew up with that movie. It's super special to me. Child's Play 3 for me is 100% where it's at.
I don't know why it gets a bad rep. Like honestly, all the Chucky movies are pretty good.
I
Even Child's Play
agree.
3, like it makes a lot of sense. I think people were a little bit held up that the original actor didn't come back, but honestly, like it makes a lot of sense. Even him, splitting open like a balloon is just pretty crazy. Like the kills are pretty good, and it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. And I love that movie. Like the Child's Play 3, forever and always my favorite Child's Play. So, um, man, we are getting to the end of the third act here, you guys. But before that, Nelson, we always bounce back to the same question. What we're going to do is we're going to bounce back to Child's Play. And what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. All we're doing here, Nelson, is ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, zero skulls being not effective, five being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Nelson, what would your ranking of Child's Play be?
That'd be a 5 for me
It's gotta be, gotta
because it
be.
was one of my favorite horror movies, and honestly, after seeing Chucky, I just wanted to see more. Like, like that one, it basically, I started loving Toy Story, and going from Toy Story to Chucky, it got me into horror, and then, like little by little, I just started, expanding more from going to Friday the 13th movies and Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Leatherface. Weirdly, The Grudge has always freaked me out, but I was just
Oh,
always looking for more.
I think The Grudge is a definite freak out movie, man. Hearing that, like that's
I
one
don't
that
know.
will always get me, man.
Weirdly, a man with a fedora and knives for hands doesn't freak me out, but a woman just crawling on the ground, gasping for air is freaky to me.
Yeah, yeah. And then you have that little boy. Like that little boy always creeped me out, man. I don't know
Oh,
what it is about that kid, man, but that little kid always freaked me out.
yeah. Did you see The Grudge versus The Ring?
No,
You heard of it?
wait, the is it the Japanese one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ring. Yes, I've seen that. I thought that they made an American one. I was like, wait, hold on a second, slow down.
Now they should though, but like weirdly, that movie got a lot of press. Just like Freddy vs. Jason, they did a baseball game, I believe, with The Grudge in the Ring.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Like it was like they actually had the actors go to a baseball field in Japan and just start playing at a regular game. But they did
That would be
give the little
amazing.
boy some clothes.
Well, I hope but it
Yeah.
would still be hilarious.
Yeah, but like it was actually a real thing. Like they had the real actors all in paint, all in costume, playing baseball.
Yeah, that's
Like
amazing. I gotta look that up, man. 'Cause that's dope.
like me, I've always loved crossovers, even though
Hmm.
like we haven't had too many Freddy versus Jason. Like I love seeing Freddy grab Jason's mask from underneath the ground, and I really wanted them to be a crossover with Chucky and somebody else. There was a game I played called Terror Dome where in this world they all live together, like in some way. Chucky, you can use Chucky to fight Jason, Jason fighting Pumpkinhead. They never like expanded it. Like the Candyman did come out, but they didn't include everybody. Like I wish they could have included Leprechaun or
Hmm.
Ginger Dead Man or something like that. Like make it a lot more broader. But I've always loved seeing horror characters meet up with each other. That's why I love
Yeah.
seeing Jason versus Leatherface the comics.
Hmm. I've got my edition of Jason versus Freddy versus Ash right over there on the table. Like I love that shit. I think it's great.
Missed opportunity, but they were pushing for it. Like the Necronomicon comes out, and it would have been perfect to have all of them. Like honestly, it would have made a lot of sense. Like Mortal Kombat, they did do that, but they messed it up by not putting them all in the same game.
Right.
Like in number nine,
Eh,
they only had Freddy. Number 10, they had Jason, Alien, Predator, and Leatherface. But then with the new one, they just have Ghostface by himself. It doesn't really work to me. Like I love
right.
Ghostface, but like I think he should have been with like everybody else.
Other horror villains.
Yeah, because with even Mortal Kombat one, the new one, they have the T1000, but the T800 was in the other game. Like I don't know, they should stick with a theme.
Yeah, that makes no sense at
Yeah,
all. To not have the T800 and the because I haven't played any of the Mortal Kombat games since fucking they were arcade cabinets, but yeah, I thought they were always fun beat 'em up games for me and my friends, but never really got into them much after that. Um, but I do love the fact that they're crossing horror over with them. The one I always wanted to see that I think would be so good is Nightmare on Elm Street and Hellraiser. Could you imagine Freddy Krueger as a Cenobite? You know what I mean? Like I just think that that crossover of Freddy and Hellraiser could be just so dope, and having
it it,
especially
it
if we had
would
Doug
work.
Bradley and Robert Englund doing those roles. Like,
Oh man, like I I did hear a theory that supposedly there was Hellraiser and Halloween. I heard of that. Like basically, the cube is what
Hmm.
influenced Michael to become crazy. But I think Freddy Krueger and Hellraiser would work together. They're both different dimensions.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you were talking about the crossover of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. I mean, in Jason Goes to Hell, it has the Necronomicon. I mean, the Necronomicon is sitting there on the table in Freddy versus or in Jason Goes to Hell, and the dagger that they use to kill him is totally the Kandarian dagger from the Evil Dead franchise. Like, it's
there's
so obviously that dagger, and it's just funny that like Adam Marcus is a genius for doing that.
yeah, like it is. It's a key part of the movie. But I really wish I could have seen Ash. Like I'm a
Yeah,
big Bruce Campbell fan, and I've always wanted to see him come out. And like they did do a little nod to it. I think the first Evil Dead or the second one with the
with the
claws
sea
hanging over
glove,
the. Yeah, I love that. Or Freddy Krueger. I believe who is it? Nancy watching Evil Dead 2. I
Evil
love
Dead.
that.
Yeah,
But
it
like
works
it's
so well, man.
like I think horror did it better because Marvel movies they always do crossovers leading up to a bigger film together, and I think Freddy versus Jason that was the movie for everybody.
And it, like I said, when that happened at the end of Freddy vs. Jason, when you had the glove come up, dude, I freaked out for weeks about that. Like I've talked about it on the podcast. But to be fair, Jason Goes to Hell is my favorite Friday the 13th film. And again, it's the one that gets shit on a lot. But man, that movie to me was so amazing. It still is. So, man, I've had an amazing time, Nelson, talking about these things with you. And I want to remind everybody that we do have all of Nelson's social media links down in the description, guys. So I implore you, make sure you're following him on social media so you can check out all the amazing things that he has coming up for us. Nelson, please don't go anywhere, my friend. I do got a couple more questions for you.
Of course,
Um, Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Those links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.